Trauma Chat with L&L takes the complexity out of trauma and makes it bite-sized.
Our goal is not to minimize it, but to normalize having conversations about the experience that many of us have without always knowing how to cope.
Trauma recovery is possible. Healing from past or even recent hurts is possible.
And we're both trauma therapists, so let's talk about it. I'm LaQuisha Fonrose, therapist, speaker, author, and owner of Holistic Quest Wellness. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and certified EFT practitioner, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. I specialize in supporting individuals and communities with discovering the tools, the strategies, and the insights to have better relationships with their thoughts and feelings so that they have more control in their lives.
And I'm Leticia Vaca-Williams, a therapist, speaker, and owner of Urban Health Group, Inc. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified in brain spotting, and certified in EMDR, and I'm an experienced medical social worker. Urban Health Group is a boutique-style concierge for healthcare navigation and mental health support. Our ultimate goal is to empower Black, Indigenous people of color with tools and supports to effectively navigate their health and mental health needs for better wellness. And there's no issue with feeling that way if you really feel that way.
Now, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
I'm done. I'm not tripping. I'm over that. And they be tripping.
Mm-hmm.
They're ruminating. They're thinking about that scenario over and over, or they really desire to be in relationships, but they don't even try dating anymore.
Yeah.
They give up on it, but they really want it, but they don't believe that it's available, that it's for them. Like maybe it's just not for me.
Yeah.
These experiences, therapy offers an opportunity to look at your part in all this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. I love that you said your part, because I'm like, it's the protective mechanism that come into play, which is okay. Like, I get it. I want to say I understand that, like that protection, right? Like I don't want to be hurt. I don't, the fear is at least for what I've experienced is like, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt by this person. So the moment that I see a red flag or a sign, I'm out. Right. But the reality is when you're in relationships, even healthy ones, you're going to get hurt sometimes. That's going to happen. Right. You will feel disappointment. Like you will feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it's how you respond and how your partner responds in those ruptures that creates reparative moments.
Yes.
So avoiding the hurt is not even a realistic expectation, even if you want a healthy relationship. Mm-hmm. I would even argue hurt comes with healthy relationships. And if you're not feeling disappointed at some point, not all the time, right? Like, are you guys being real?
That part. Because I don't always agree with my partner. Mm-hmm. I'm not always feeling the approach that they're taking on life or a situation. Mm-hmm. And, how I communicate that, if I even need to communicate that, makes the difference. And so when we're talking about like intimate relationships, like this is a voluntary person who's chosen to be in a relationship with you. Yeah. And there's an agreement about that it does take a great deal of talking. There takes a great deal of boundaries. There takes a great deal of checking yourself, because not everything you think needs to be said, but there are things that sometimes need to be said. When we look at traumatic relationships, it disrupts a person's ability to kind of discern all of that. What happens is they get very emotional. And we're all emotional beings. I'm even the folks who look stoic or don't make facial expressions, if you look at their heart rate, it's probably elevated. Yes. And they're having an internal experience. So we can't always judge a person on their composure, whether or not they're emotional or not. We're all emotional. Mm-hmm. But how we take care of that emotional part so that we can think logically to say, you know what, I'm really upset right now. Yeah. It's a topic that's very important to me, but I can't communicate it right now because I'm too turned up. I'm too activated. That's my word. I'm too. And so the other person may just be focused on the fact that you're turned up, that you're emotional. That's okay. Those things match. But when you're able to move past that emotion to communicate what you need from a person, this could even look like a parent, right? Because sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
buttons or some
Mm-hmm.
push their buttons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different things. And it's okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What do I need? And does that person even have the capacity
Right.
to provide or even hear what needs to be communicated?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking about recovery, being able to work through the difficulties that we might have experienced in the past or the things that are coming up right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to maneuver. You are not going to know all the situations. You can't
Mm-mm.
see everything that may come your way. I know people who are in relationship or even family. I could speak to myself, family members who have had health issues. It can change the dynamics of the relationship. There can be a great deal of frustration, grief, or anticipatory grief that goes into that. It's a very common experience to have challenges. I think that's what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Those don't necessarily have to be red flags, but opportunities to work
Mm-hmm.
through in a more healthier manner. And then when you've gone as far as you can go, sometimes it still doesn't change the dynamics. So you have to make some choices for yourself.
Exactly.
I'm gonna need to step back from this, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My partner and I, we were dealing with a family health issue. And at certain points, I was like, I got to step back because
Mm-hmm.
I'm too engaged. I'm getting really wrapped up. And part of it was my helplessness. I actually can't help that person feel better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But my approach was causing more stress, although I was trying to be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't being helpful.
Yeah, but that speaks to the power of like checking in with yourself as you're talking, like slowing down your process, having a moment to check in, like, okay, like what shifts need to be created, right? And sometimes the shift is to lean in, and sometimes the shift is to step back.
Step back.
But creating that capacity and that awareness and that discernment. And you spoke earlier around just what came up for me was emotional reasoning, right? As you were talking, it's like I feel hurt, or you did this, so now I feel hurt, and because I feel hurt, this is gonna happen, right? Like because I feel this way, that means you don't care. You didn't answer your phone. Now I feel hurt. Now that means you don't care about me,
Right.
right? Like we use our emotions to make sense of things that are happening, and sometimes our emotions are misleading.
Yeah.
And most times, I would argue all the time is just information.
Yeah. Because
Just
you're
give the
saying
information.
you're putting yourself in a mind reading. Well, you did this. I mean, you don't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if that's what that means.
Right.
Communicate, I'm not feeling valued in this relationship. That's different than you did this, and that's why I feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
those two are not what they did, and how you feel about yourself are not mutually exclusive.
They're not.
But your feelings are valid, but don't start projecting and mind reading for people. And that's how I check myself. When I start making assumptions about what someone is thinking, about why they did what they did to me, okay, come back. No, you feel hurt. Just come back. You
Mm-hmm.
feel hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it gives the opportunity to figure out like where is this hurt coming from? Is it deeper, or is this person showing a pattern of behavior over time where, okay, I've seen what it is, right?
Yeah.
um because it might be a deeper rooted issue based on like a belief system that has been created throughout childhood based on other experiences, and
Yeah.
now there's an opportunity to do some work around that. Or you get to decide this person is not for me because
Straight
this
up.
is the this has happened time and time again, right? And do I choose to be in this relationship knowing who they are,
Yeah.
or do I choose to make a shift?
Right. And sometimes we change.
Mm-hmm.
And other people change. Your friends may change, your parents may change, your partner may change, what they're going through, circumstances may change. And so being able to adjust with what's going on, you got to stay up to date with that. Just because your mama known you all your life, your interests and who you are as a person may have evolved.
Right.
My family jokingly, maybe because I'm like small in stature or whatever, they tell me, I always see you as a little girl. And I'm like, but I'm not.
No,
And I'm,
at all.
you cuss? Yeah, I cuss, right?
Mhm.
So your evolution may not always be up to date with how people perceive you or how they have known you. And you get to decide how you want to proceed in this life.
Mhm.
The recovery part of traumatic relationships or how people have viewed you or the role you've played in their life is, but do you want to switch gears? Do you want
Mhm.
things to be different? Do you want meaningful relationships? Do you want friends you can travel with or can call and be like, I need to come over right now.
Mhm.
Help me pack. Or
Mhm.
I got friends I can call and say, I need you to help me clean out my basement.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly.
Or, the friend that you want to go to a concert, that you can develop these things. Do you want that for yourself?
Mhm.
Or are you more comfortable staying in what's known, which
Mhm.
sometimes are these toxic, dysfunctional, unhealthy relationships due to history?
Yeah. What's familiar, right? It's what our brains and our bodies are used to, so that's what it gravitates towards. But we also get to decide, like, do we want to change? And what I've noticed is that a lot of times that change is really difficult because there's a lot of grief that's attached to that change
Uh,
that people are like, I didn't expect to have this experience. I'm like, yeah, like there's a lot of grief that comes with that grief of your old self, grief of relationships, even if you're staying in relationship with somebody, like the change of that relationship, the shift of like boundary setting, or we used to talk every day. Now I don't have capacity for that anymore.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So all of those things come up when we talk about like relational healing and
Mhm.
change and setting boundaries and getting to choose differently. Um, it's powerful and you get to choose.
You do get to choose, especially as when you're a kid, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have very little choice. But as you get older, we don't always get taught that you can choose. We start hearing these words, but I practice so much just listening and being obedient or trying to not make people upset that I'm less learned. I'm less practice at like doing my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But before
Yeah.
we talk about like the grief and healing and moving forward, what are some ways that you can help folks identify when they're in traumatic relationships? Like what kind of stuff comes up? How can they identify that they may be experiencing some relational trauma?
The relational trauma. I feel like that neediness comes out a lot, or like that people pleasing, however you want to, put that into language, but always wanting to show up and show out for people, even if it's depleting for them, and with this expectation of receiving love back, right? Like I'm doing all of this for these people or for this person, and they're not returning the favor. I really wish somebody would do something for me.
Yeah.
Um, those kinds of things I see it on both ends. So then I see the other one where it's like I can't it's kind of like this I can't energy, like I'm not fooling with nobody, I'm not messing with nobody, um no new friends, like all of this kind of energy, right? So it's no balance, right? It's no, yeah, this person is really dope, really cool, really powerful, and they're still human.
Mm-hmm.
Extension of grace and compassion. But like you said earlier, if we can't give that to ourselves, then how are we giving that to our community?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the people we love, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other things that I see that are common are feelings of anger and fear. Those tend to be really elevated or persistent emotions that they feel. Well, I'm afraid they're going to be upset, or I'm so upset they did this thing, right? It's a common thing that comes up every time you're interacting with that person. It could also be guilt, feeling guilty,
Mm-hmm.
not inviting someone or not choosing to participate in a certain activity, and blaming yourself sometimes for other people's circumstances. Oh man, if I was there, I could have did this for them, So
Yeah.
those feelings of guilt and shame I'm sorry, blame, self-blame. I'm supposed to be there, right? Or if you're in partnership with someone in a relationship, I'm to blame that they're so unhappy every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm to
Mm-hmm.
blame that they can't get any relief. I feel guilty that I'm going on this trip and they're not.
Yeah, that survivor's guilt is big. As you're talking, I'm thinking too around mom guilt, and
Mhm.
I'm just, my wheels are kind of spinning with this one now. It's
Yeah.
how much of that is relational trauma, right? Like how I'm supposed to show up as a mom. Like I'm big on boundaries, even with my children, right? So I'll leave the house and my daughter's like, "Mommy, you could get a massage?" Yes, ma'am, I'll be back, right? But I hear a lot of moms who are like, I can't even leave the house without my children like clinging to my leg and they don't want to leave me and I feel so guilty about it. And I'm always not, I'm not curious because I understand why.
Right.
But that can be a big part of relational trauma too, right? Especially matriarchs back in the day, like
Matriarch.
always having to show up and show out, and there was no boundaries, there was no space, overdoing, pushing past limits, not
That's a
taking care
woman's
of
role.
self,
That's a woman's
right?
role to do that.
Exactly.
That's your
Exactly.
job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. Thinking about that. And maybe that's just like learned behavior. But as you're talking about guilt, I'm like, that definitely was something that was passed down generationally.
Yeah. Oh, you going, and it's not just the kids, but it's maybe even your peers or family members. Oh, you doing that again? Oh, must be nice, right? People say,
Mm-hmm.
must be nice. And it's like, oh, that
Yeah.
you ain't really, so that's not really a supportive
That,
statement. It's kind of
no.
a judgment statement, right?
Yes.
Um,
Mm-hmm. That undertone.
yeah, that undertone, it's what you're not saying that I feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other things are if there's a high uh, amount of like insecurity in that relationship, whether it's intimate with your family members or friends, that there's something about you that don't really trust the hanging out with them or dealings with them or seeing them. I don't really feel like I can show up and be my full self. Um, those are ways to really kind of, there may be some work there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely some work there. Um, Not being able to show up and be your full self. I have clients, Black women clients who feel like they are high achievers, right? That's kind of like who they are in their spirit, and being in communities where they don't get to show that part of themselves. So when you're saying that, I'm thinking about that aspect of it, right? Like, but also not um still working on creating new and healthy relationships and fearful around what that would look like and what that means.
Mhm.
So for sure.
Yeah, it's all connected. All of our experiences shape us. Um, Not all of them are traumatic, but the ones that are traumatic, they do need attention. How do
Mm-hmm.
I know? And it's just some of the things that we talked about that can help us identify. We know that our different attachment styles are contributors. We know that our boundaries, our lack of boundaries can be a contributor to that, but that you can work through and recover from traumatic relationships, that you can find peace and love and a full sense of connection in all of your interactions, even the challenging ones, because you have decided how you're going to approach life. And that's without you trying to predict situations, it's without you trying to
Mm-hmm.
manipulate situations in your favor, but that you trust that I can show up and be who I am and take care of myself no matter the circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Interesting that the people around you are going to take care of you as well,
Yeah,
because you've created a community of people who
cultivated
are
it.
yeah, healthy enough, well enough to be able to hold space, right? So it
Yeah.
starts with you first as an adult, but also you get to have community of people who can hold and that you can trust to
Mhm.
take care of your needs. You
Yeah.
don't got to do it alone. We're not even supposed to be doing this life
You
alone.
can't. You can't. I mean, you could try, but it's going to be really difficult. Even with these attachment styles, they're not fixed. Even a secure person, insecure attachment style, it's always changing. Life is always changing. Folks are always changing. So it's not surprising that your needs may be evolving, but you can be up to date with yourself.
Yeah.
As you are experiencing people at different points in their lives.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
So we just want to encourage you all to continue to take care of yourself, take a closer look at relationships that are having a negative impact on you. Meet the ones that are having a great positive impact on you, to learn from what do I want more of, what do I want less of. And if you need some more support sorting that out, therapy is an option.
For sure. Yes.
All right, you all have a good one.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Listen, we just unpacked lots of good stuff.
Please note this is not a replacement for therapy, but we do encourage you to use Trauma Chat with L&L podcast as a part of your wellness plan.
Because we want you to have the knowledge you need to take the next steps.
And if any of this resonates with you and you'd like to discover how to move from surviving to thriving, please go to my website at urbanhealthgroupinc.org.
And or my website, holisticquestwellness.co, to connect with a licensed therapist where we provide a variety of mental health services.
Our links are listed below. We'll see you next Monday.